Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 3,730 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I had a great snow trip for about 4 days up in Tahoe with my family. It was wonderful, it was incredible, but it also means that this week I've had virtually zero time to prepare a video for you guys and have played zero Xbox 360 games. So we are going with a audible yet again, and we're talking about the PS3. And for this week, we're talking about some PS3 games that are not on the Xbox 360, though I wish they were. And they range from games I've played to games I haven't, because like I said, I'm vamping here as I really have no way of making a video this week if I don't. And also, it's the Christmas season. Christmas tree will be here for a few weeks, so get used to it. But anyways, if you want to see 10 PS3 games that are not on the Xbox 360, let's check it out. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, so starting it off with a game that I felt like I was in the cool person's club when I first was introduced to this game back in 2013. Back then, almost no one talked about it, and now it's become a game that is almost over talked about, and that is the legendary 3D Dot Game Heroes. And surprisingly, this game is still not anywhere else. They haven't done anything else with it. And what makes this so cool is it has voxel pixel art, so similar to the way Octopath Traveler works, the way you have the screen sort of blur as it gets further away from you. This, I want to say, was the first game that really introduced that mechanics, even though it's not the HD 2D style. But more importantly is that this game is a through and through Zelda clone for the PlayStation. And almost got zero fanfare when it came out. Like, no one talked about this game. I didn't know about this game. I was introduced to this from my buddy Ryan, who lived next door, who I originally was going to start this channel with. But he brought this to my attention, let me borrow his copy. I absolutely loved it. I looked for it at GameStop for years after that. Finally found it for like $15. And then long after that, it still floated around that until suddenly the secret was out. I don't know if it's when the PS3 or the PSN store went down and then didn't go down if people found out about that back then. But I like to think of this as one of the 3 of the PS3 exclusive trilogy that we're going to talk to in this video. But this is a really cool game because not only is it a Zelda clone and a very competent one, but it's got a cool mechanic where when you have full health, your sword will actually go almost the entirety of the screen. There's a lot of collectibles, a lot of secrets. It's a pretty hefty game too, unlike the Zelda clone we played last week, the Adventure Time one that's pretty short. This is a game that has some meat on its bones. So yes, I know it's like $60, $70 complete now. I mean, it is an Atlas title, so what'd you expect? But wow, can I not recommend this one more. It even allows you to design your own voxel pixel art for your main character. Now, I didn't get down with that too much because I'm not that kind of talented with that create a character. Like, my create a character randomized until I find one that's good and then go. Unless I'm trying to make him look like my buddy Rewind Mike, then, you know, it's bald guy, stereotype, mustache. All right, let's go. But yeah, 3D Dot Game Heroes, phenomenal game. I would love to see more from this series, see it on anything. But yeah, that's one that if you guys are interested in it or have heard about it, not quite sure why everyone talks about it, it's a phenomenal game. All right. Now, another one of the trilogy that I think was a little bit more well-known than 3D Dot Game Heroes. I know it was on a Metal Jesus Hidden Gems video back in the day, and that is Folklore. Now, this game skyrocketed after the PSN store went down. I was one of the idiots who definitely bought it higher than I probably should have. It does have the manuals complete, but I think it was around $40. It shopped to $100. I think I got around 60 or 70, and then it came back down there. If it's probably, I probably still paid more than I should have. But with the eventual PS3 store closing in the next year or so, I'm sure this will shoot back up to the moon again. What makes it so interesting is that there's 2 different characters you're playing as, and then that's about as much as I can BS my way through this one. I don't know. I haven't played it. I am going based off of everyone else who talks about it, who says it's good, whose opinions I respect, and it looked interesting. And then the third of that would be the Puppeteer. Now, this was another Metal Jesus Rocks hidden gem that I did pick up back in, I want to say, 2014, because the art style looked very cool. It's this production that almost takes place on a stage, so with my theatrical background, it definitely appealed to me in that regard, and it almost has sort of a more edgy Little Big Planet style art style. And then yet again, anytime you hear about this game, I've seen it on GameSack, I've seen it on all other channels, they always say what a fun game this is, and I wanted it. It's 1 to 2 players. I can't quite remember if it's 1 to 2 players simultaneously or if you're taking turns, but what a cool game, what a great art style, and what another unique concept that we don't really see anymore these days, and it's really such a shame. Speaking of unique concepts, this was one of the reasons why I wanted a PS3 so badly. I had no idea what this game was about. I remember people saying it was kind of like Saw, or there was things of that. But one of the games that when I got a PS3, I picked it up, I think it was the second game I played on the system. That's Heavy Rain. I know the Quantic Dreams games kind of love them or leave them, especially because by the time a lot of people started to get PS3s, they'd already played the Walking Dead Telltale games. But this is such a photorealistic game for the time. It's a murder mystery. You control one of 4 protagonists, and based on your actions throughout the game, one of them can die permanently, changing the outcome of the story. And then there's an overarching mystery. If the child gets lost, and then there's another child who gets abducted that there's a meme from. There's some situations that are kind of like this movie Saw, where the character's having to, cut his hand or go through barbed wire that's electrified. That part doesn't really stick with you that much. And also, this is one of the first games that I can remember there was, full frontal in a video game. There's a shower scene in this with one of the protagonists that then gets interrupted, but yeah, that was for the time not something you saw too often. Now it's not as revolutionary, but yeah, this was really a coming of age for games. And since then they made a few other games. They've done Detroit Become Human, and another one we'll talk about maybe in this video. Not in this one. Beyond Two Souls. But this is probably still my favorite of all of them, just because it has a very compelling narrative outside of the fact that the gameplay is kind of lackluster. Detroit Become Human is cool too, but that one just feels a little bit more heavy-handed, whereas a cyber thriller with androids versus this one is just very grounded in reality with serial killers and a badass detective who goes up and beats up people. Really fun game. One I cannot recommend enough, and it is stupid cheap. I think there was a port to PS4 maybe. I can't quite remember, but still one to definitely get on the PS3. Speaking of games stuck on the PS3, these ones I'm pretty damn certain have never left the PS3, and that is the Infamous Collection. So this not only includes Infamous 1, Infamous 2, but it also has the standalone DLC, Infamous Festival of Blood. And if the PSN store is anything like the Xbox 360 store is, if you pick up one of these copies that has a download code, because I don't believe it's on the disc, it might be on the disc. The nice thing about the PS3 is because it is Blu-ray, they have bigger disc size so they can hold the DLC on the disc. But I can't quite remember if the DLC was on the disc. Something tells me it was not, just because I see a voucher in here. But that standalone Festival of Blood, it basically takes place in the Infamous universe, but you're playing as a vampire. I make it akin to the Rockstar version of Red Dead Redemption, Undead Nightmare. This was a really cool time in games. It only lasted about 2 or 3 years, where DLC was created and could be standalone and really added to the experience without feeling like it was a necessary buy, or just, it felt like the developers were having fun with being able to alter the game in a way that wasn't quite a sequel, but wasn't necessarily something that they would have included in the base game. true DLC, in my opinion. Anyways, the Infamous games also are incredible. Infamous 1 and 2, that's really where I cut my teeth on a lot of these open world games that then would get, games like Arkham City or Sunset Overdrive or just, that's Spider-Man, like the Amazing Spider-Man games, they would kind of go and do that sort of thing. But yeah, Infamous 1 and 2, phenomenal game. I haven't played Festival of Blood, but it's on the disc. That's why I would get that one instead of just getting Infamous 1 and 2. Was to get that DLC. I don't know if it's on the disc. No, that DLC go. Anyways. Alright, here's a PS3 game that did not come out in America. There is an English version that came out in, I want to say, China of all things, and it's one of the most expensive PS3 games, versus the Japanese version, which the PS3 is region-free, so you can play any of these games on it. And it doesn't require English to know how to play it. It's just it's not quite a walking simulator, but it's more like something akin to Limbo. And that game is called Lost in Rain. Now it's Rain here because that's a Japanese title, but Lost in Rain, where you play as this ghostly shadow being that you can see while the rain is falling on them. And that's, once again, I have not had a chance to play this one yet, but I was circling looking for this game forever. I wanted to get the English translated version, even though it was more expensive, but then I found out that you didn't need to know English to play it. So I was like, all right, I'll just get the Japanese version. That's good enough. I just wanted it in my collection. It's another game that most people will know of because it's a DLC, download-only game. But there's a physical version, and whenever there's a physical version, I gotta get me some of that. So that's why I picked up Rain. Speaking of download games getting physical versions, there was a time when the indie developer scene was not nearly as robust as it is now. Now we have things like Chucklefish and the people that made Rocket League and etc. Like, you could go on and on and on. My own personal, like, Retrotainment Games, they make the Haunted Halloween games. I love them. But back then, this company was called That Game Company. And they made a bunch of games, but the main one that everyone knew was Journey. Now, this collection came out in, I want to say 2012, 2013. Had a standalone download, or not standalone version on the disc of Journey, Flower, and Flow. The first 3 games this company made. I think either this company also made that game Abzu, or people from it went to make Abzu. But since this trilogy of games, they never really have found that kind of impact anymore. Not like a company like the ones behind Bastion, which was Supergiant Games, Supermassive. I don't know. There's so many. I think it's Supergiant Games. But yes, they did Hades. But Journey is such a fun game. It literally, there's no dialogue. You're just told to go and walk to the mountain. And it really is one of those things where they start delving into our video games art, the way it makes you feel, the way it makes you geek out about it. The gameplay is still very solid. It's a very gorgeous game to behold. And it's short. It's a very short play, about 3 hours. You can have someone drop in, play with you for a little bit, and then drop out, and then they're gone. You cannot communicate with each other natively. You can use these little prompts, and then, go together. And when I first played Journey, I had that experience where I was maybe an hour in, some guy joined me in my quest, stayed with me for maybe an hour, and then was gone. I had no idea who they were. I had no idea what they did. They showed me a lot about the game. I had no idea. And then it was just it. It was an interesting vibe, feeling, anything to get from a video game. Still not really something that I've had emulated to this day when I've played games. And one of the things that really, I'm not a huge online gamer anymore, but that kind of experience really does throw that out the window, where you don't just have to make it a competitive experience. Sometimes the experience is just how you're interacting and how it is, or what story is told as you're playing that game. And then the other 2 games are no slouch. Flower is a lot of fun. I played that with Jen. Basically, you are a wind torrent of flower petals going around and revitalizing the countryside, and that'll make buildings grow and flowers sprout, and just, very chillax games, nothing crazy. Same thing for Flow. You're playing as almost like an amoeba, where you're going and eating things and getting bigger. It's sort of almost a prototypical type of a feeding frenzy type game, but all of them very solid. And the fact that if you bought it to get Journey, you got these other two. Really, really well worth your money. And I think these have been re-released. I don't know if they've ever been re-released physically, though. And this is still a pretty affordable collection from what I've seen. I think it was $20 originally when it came out brand new, or at least it got down to $20. I think it's somewhere around there now, but I don't know. Like I said, I did zero research for this video, as I always do. You guys know me. All right, now this is one that I did not even know came out for the PS3. I could have sworn the last one of these was Twisted Metal Black, and then they didn't ever do the follow-up, but no. There was I think it's 2013 version of just Twisted Metal. Yet again, for some reason in the 2010s, all publishers, developers, movie people, they just thought, you know what, rather than have it go to like Twisted Metal 6, 5, 7, normal numbering conventions, why don't we just rebrand it with the original name? I don't know why. I don't know who thought of this. They did this with movies with Rambo and Rocky Balboa and all this stupid crap that this... Just name it what it is. Come on, I know it gets embarrassing when you get to Jason X and you go to space, but we want to know that. For us collectors out there, I like to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's why the Legend of Zelda series is so annoying to put on my shelf. I literally have to go, okay, Breath of the Wild, Link's Awakening remake, Tears of the Kingdom, Echoes of Wisdom. Yeah, I could do it alphabetical, but anyways, I digress. Twisted Metal, it's a solid entry in the Twisted Metal series. It didn't do anything all that spectacular. If you watched the Peacock television series, which was actually far better than I thought it would be, you have some more of the characters that show up in that, like Dollface towards the end of it. Of course, you gotta have Sweet Tooth. As far as gameplay goes, it's Twisted Metal. It wasn't quite as... by this time, the formula had gotten stale. Although Twisted Metal Black did such a good job, I don't know why they couldn't recapture some of that magic, but I digress. Alright, last couple down here. Like I said, this is not going to be a super long video this week, but one of the games that did get a remaster on the PS4, which I think I picked that up too, but one of the other ones that my buddy Ryan showed me too that I just had to pick up because I hadn't really ever seen anything like this. It's an Atlas title. It's made by Vanillaware, which Vanillaware I'm quickly finding is a company I really like. And that is Dragon's Crown. So Dragon's Crown is a beat 'em up. That's what it technically is. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. But it adds RPG elements to it. It adds the ability to customize your character's loadout, as well as it has one of the most ridiculous art styles you will ever see. You have a mage that, or you have an Amazon that's, the character proportions in this game do not make sense at all. I know there were a lot of articles written about it, and I think even the publisher came out and apologized for doing it, or something stupid out, but then they went back to their ways. Like, you've seen Unicorn Overlord, there's some more ridiculous character designs in that. But besides all of that noise, the gameplay is exceptionally fun. It is a very fun side-scroller, and the only downside with it, in my opinion, is that you have to replay levels a lot. And I think that's why I've never beaten the damn thing, is every time I think it's going to be fun to play, I find myself stuck having to go through the same levels over and over and over again. And that's just not a gameplay loop I enjoy. There is online play you can do, but they made a stupid decision where you have to get a certain amount in the game before you can play with a friend. And we had this problem happen the day that the PS4 remake came out, because you could cross-play between the two of them. But all four of us who wanted to play together all had to start from the beginning. And then by the time we got to the point where all of us could play together, because we all had lives, we couldn't, and we never picked it up again. And that's kind of how that one went. But still a fun game. Like I said, it's on the PS4 as well. I think it's called Dragon's Crown Pro, but if you want to play the original, there's not much difference between them. And I think this one's a little bit cheaper. And Vanillaware, just a really solid company, and I enjoy their games. All right, and then the last one, this is one that I actually picked up this year on Father's Day. For some reason, I think it might be because it's made by Team Ninja. I thought this was a game that was essentially the original game before Senua's Sacrifice or Senua's Saga, but I guess it's not. And that game is Heavenly Sword. So maybe Senua's Saga is like a spiritual successor, but I don't know. But this is a really early release for the PS3. I want to say 2007. It's never been all that expensive. I think it's still around $15. I almost picked it up for around $7 circa 2018, but then I didn't. Probably should have. Ended up paying almost double for it at $15. But it's just a really solid Team Ninja, hack and slash 3D type game. It didn't do very well. They were supposed to have a sequel, but then it got canceled. And then I guess what people speculate is that the next game they made was Enslaved Odyssey to the West, which is another game that, in my opinion, is an absolute banger. One of the best games I've played since I've delved into the 360 library. So going back and playing a game that they made, if it feels anything close to that or anywhere close to the polish and the way they set it up, I'm looking forward to checking this one out. But let me know what you guys think. Have you played it? Do you enjoy that game? But yeah, there you go, guys. A relatively short one this week. Hey, as always, so thankful for having you guys all here. I had one question I saw last week. It was saying what Batman game I would pick. I would go with Batman Arkham Asylum. That's just I haven't played the NES Batman. I haven't played much of some of the other ones. But Arkham Asylum is really the game that landed in that sweet spot for myself. Absolutely loved it. Even though it doesn't have Mr. Freeze in it, I just really like that game. That open free roamingness of it is a double-edged sword in my opinion, because most of the time the content you're finding is not mandatory, which means that there's not as much care put into it. Versus an Arkham Asylum, yeah, they had some of that type of content too, but when you found that side content, it felt like you were finding a secret rather than you were just exploring a city and happened to come across it, or else got notified on your mini-map because they do the damn Assassin's Creed thing where everything pops up. Anyways, I digress. As always, guys, I release a new video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.